From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. We've got a great show planned for all of y'all today. Some really cutting edge stories and some leading stories showing you the impact of cybersecurity on everyday life. And so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the show. But before I do that, one, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please make sure to do so. You can go and follow us on Substack, jamesazar.substack.com. You can also find us on YouTube, your favorite podcast listening platform, and all your favorite social medias, excluding TikTok. Now, here's the deal. On Friday, I'll be hosting Jaime Velasco, the CTO over at Nudge Security. We're going to be talking SaaS security, but we're really going to be approaching this at a deep dive level. That's 11 a.m. Eastern on Friday. It's part of our Friday conversation. Jaime will be joining me live. We'll be taking your questions, comments. We're going to talk a little bit about Snowflake and what's going on there, the symptoms of the challenges that exist within SaaS security, and then how do we turn that into a success? And so a lot there to unpack in 30 minutes. I hope you'll join us. The event is now available. So make sure you go to our YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Twitch, wherever else you get your podcast to tune in live for the show, 11 a.m. Eastern on Friday. Now, let's go ahead and move to my favorite part of the show, my double espresso. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. Well, the city of London has been experiencing some disruptions due to a cyber attack that's forced emergency rooms and hospitals to cancel operations and send patients away. Part of this is because the ransomware attack was on a firm by the name of Synovus, not associated with the U.S. bank, that affected all of the Synovus IT systems, resulting in interruption to many of their pathology services. It's still early. They're still trying to understand what happened. Yes, within 24 hours, you rarely know what that is. The NHS has said there had been a significant impact at King's College and Guy's and St. Thomas's Hospital Trust, which between them runs several South London hospitals, as well as to clinics and doctor practices across the swath of the city. A member of the staff said the critical incident has had major impact on the delivery of services, with blood transfusion particularly affected. NHS England London region said in a statement they're working urgently to fully understand the impact of the incident with the support of the government's National Cybersecurity Center and their own cyber operations team. Oliver Dawson was preparing for an operation from 6 a.m. on Monday at the Royal Brompton Hospital, was told by 12:30 that hospital surgery was not going to happen. They're now hoping to be able to treat the patient next week, hopefully, if they're able to regain function. And here you have a case of ransomware. Now, we don't know. No group has claimed responsibility for this attack as of yet. We don't know the IOCs and TTPs behind it. We don't know how the IT firm that provides pathology services was breached. So we're not going to jump to conclusions, but the impact alone is insane. You're turning people away from surgery, and it could be I don't know if it's life-saving surgery, and that's the other thing, right? But my guess is you're still going to do life-saving surgery because good doctors know how to do operations, and there's got to be some sort of manual override. My guess is the non-emergency stuff is getting pushed out, which is also having an impact. German publication Zeit Online, and this is behind a paywall, so if you try to go to the link, they're going to ask you to pay, reported that on May the 4th, the vulnerabilities in the German government's implementation of the Cisco Webex video conferencing software could have been or may have been exploited to obtain links to internal meetings and the meeting rooms of high-ranking officials. The German government has been using the on-prem version of Webex to store data on local servers, ensure it does not leave the country. However, researchers discovered what appeared to be an insecure direct object reference vulnerability that could have been exploited to obtain the links to thousands of internal Webex meetings simply by changing the numbers in the meeting link. They exposed topic, time, and participants of a meeting, including sensitive sessions discussing military activities. In early March, the Russians had published and embarrassed the Germans with a recorded audio conversation of a German military meeting held on the Webex platform. Now, while the two incidents, it's unclear whether or not they're related, two coincidences within 90 days seems a bit odd. Cisco addressed the incident with a security advisory published on June 4th, saying that it had released patches and continues to be on the lookout for unauthorized activity. The question is, did this happen? And if so, how long has this vulnerability been around? So let's say now, initially, the Russian hacking the German system was attributed to some guy in Singapore getting on a plane call, calling into the number, allegedly. But could it be different? Could it be that there was a WebEx system and he's the CISO for the German military, the scapegoat per se? That could also be an option there. TikTok is warning of an exploit aimed at high-profile accounts. On Tuesday, Forbes reported that sources inside of TikTok believe a strain of malware is being spread by an unidentified threat actor through the platform's DM feature. The malware allows attackers to take over an account without a victim having to click on any link or download anything. So, spyware on TikTok. The security team is aware of the potential exploit targeting a number of high-profile accounts. They've taken measures to stop this attack and prevent it from happening in the future. TikTok said they're working directly with the affected account owners to restore access if needed. While the current number of victims is unknown, Forbes and Semaphore have confirmed that CNN's TikTok account was taken over. The attackers also targeted the accounts of Paris Hilton and the Sony brand account, so nothing you would say crazy there. TikTok, we'll see. TikTok's in a world of hurt. They've got a lawsuit against Congress and the president for the law that essentially bans TikTok. I've written about that on Substack, and I've actually done a video on it. You can go check that out, and I'll put those at the end of this video here for all to see. Taiwan-based networking device manufacturer Zixel is warning of 3 critical severity vulnerabilities in 2 of their discontinued NOS products. Those lead to command injection and arbitrary code execution. The CVEs are 2024 299er72 and 299er73. The first 2 flaws are command injection bugs that could be exploited without authentication through a crafted HTTP post request. The other unauthenticated issue, CVE 2024 299er74, it could allow attackers to execute arbitrary code by uploading crafted configuration files. The impacted products, according to Zixel, is the NOS 326 and 542. Both were discontinued in December of last year. However, the severity has made it critical for those to patch those devices. So make sure you get that done. The FBI is issuing a dire warning about scammers using fake remote job ads to steal crypto from job seekers across the U.S. while posing as recruiters for legitimate companies. These work-from-home scams are designed to lure potential victims with easy-to-accomplish tasks like rating various businesses online or optimizing a service. Too good to be true, and they're going to pay you $50 an hour. Scammers design it to have a fake compensation structure that requires victims to make crypto payments in order to earn more money or unlock work, but the payments go directly into the scammer, no work involved. Something great to share within the workforce as part of cyber awareness. We always talk about cyber awareness in terms of phishing and vishing and smishing and links and so forth and all of that good stuff. But I would look at it from a fraud perspective as well. I think our employees would relate more to this type of training that would help them identify and become more capable of identifying phishing than anything else. Going through that, so kind of reversing that psychology a little bit would go a long way. We move to some geopolitical stuff, specifically the war between Russia and the Ukraine continues to carry on. I was speaking to someone who I know in the Ukraine yesterday, and the situation there is fairly rough. Meaning the Ukrainians are doing their best to kind of stave off the Russians. The Belarusian and now the Belarusians have really kind of teamed up with the Russians in kind of more of a geopolitical play, targeting the Ukraine Ministry of Defense and a military base in a new cyber espionage operation, according to researchers. They've attributed the attacks to ghostwriters. We've talked about them in the show before. They've been known for attacks against Ukraine, Lithuania, Latvia, and Poland. In the latest campaign observed in April by researchers at CyberHub, the attackers sent their targets phishing emails with an attachment that contained drone images files with malicious Microsoft Excel spreadsheets. Researchers said that they had informed victims based on the content of lore documents. When the victims open the Excel file, a button labeled Enable Content pops up on their screen. Cyber explained in the report released yesterday that once clicked, it executes an embedded VBA macro within the document, allowing the attackers to deliver malicious payloads, steal data, and gain unauthorized access to systems. During analysis, Sable couldn't retrieve the final payload, but said that it possibly includes Agent Tesla, Cobalt Strike beacons, and NJ-RAD as seen in previous campaigns. Ghostwriter has been tracked by multiple names and monikers, but the one we all know them by is Ghostwriter. Ukraine's computer emergency response team warned about cyber attacks against Ukrainian military personnel and defense services using Dark Crystal malware, which could allow attackers to gain remote access to victim devices. So, all in all, that battlefield is not just missiles being aimed at civilian infrastructure within the Ukraine. It's also in the cyber realm, and that's really important to note, because those end up carrying to civilian side as well once they become a norm. Over the last year, a trio of Chinese state-aligned threat clusters collaborated to glean sensitive military and political secrets from high-profile government organizations in Southeast Asia. The report by Sophos highlights not just the sophistication of what they deemed Operation Crimson Palace, involving new malware tools, more than 15 DLL side loading efforts, and some novel evasion techniques, but also a remarkable degree of coordination. The three different threat clusters performed specialized tasks in a broader attack chain, likely under the watch of a single organization. Again, the decentralization, even by nation states, is evident. Diligent teamwork allowed the attackers to steal a large number of files and emails. They included documents outlining strategic approaches to the hotly contested South China Sea. The unidentified government in question has long feuded with China over that territory, and there's only a handful of countries there. Chinese APTs have been known to share infrastructure and malicious code, but this takes the inner APT collaboration to new heights, according to the report. The first signs of the Chinese linked threat activity can be traced to March of 2022, when the Nupakaj data exfiltration tool developed by Mustang Panda was deployed onto the victim's government network. Later in December, an attacker performed DLL stitching to covertly deploy two backdoors against targeted domain controllers. The Crimson Palace campaign began the following year with the team at Sophos calls Cluster Alpha. From March to August, Alpha performed reconnaissance by mapping server subnets, noting admin accounts, and probing Active Directory infrastructure, disabled antivirus protections, including and by using a new variant of the Eager-B backdoor from Emissary Panda. And you see kind of all those tools come together. The Chinese are very, very well planned. They come at these types of attacks and they go after nation states very, very organized. That's what separates them from the Iranians and the Russians, who kind of act like cowboys, aka terrorists. So once you've breached by one of these adversaries, all bets are off. They are in there and they try to assume a Volt Typhoon style future disruption, and you just have to assume breach at that point. Yesterday, we talked about the Paris Olympics, but the Paris Olympics are a primary and attractive target for state actors like Russia, China, and Iran, who are trying to pursue political goals by disrupting these games, whether by cyber attack or otherwise. The Russians have already started it, but we know the Iranians also are stoked into it. Also, the Russian-Ukrainian war and the Israel-Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran war. It's really Israel versus Iran, but Iran is hiding behind its proxies. those being Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthi rebels in Yemen, as well as some other militias in Syria and Iraq, could play an effect on the games more than ever. So the Olympic Committee has decided that Russian and Belarusian athletes could only compete in Paris Games under the status of an individual neutral athletes rather than representing their home countries. That's a slap in the face for those countries who could look to disrupt the games as part of payback. So we'll see that there are a ton of campaigns going there. The folks that are securing the Olympics have their hands full, and something to pay attention to is the TTPs and IOCs that they're using for disruption. Mind you, the Olympic Games are a preview to a hotly contested election season coming up in the third and fourth quarter of this year in over 50 countries. So keep that in mind. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, live with all the latest and greatest. Please go and make sure you attend our event Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, with Jaime Velasco, the CTO over at our friend over at Nudge Security. We're going to be talking SaaS security to tactical win, supply chain to tactical wins. Really a great technical deep dive session. That's 11 a.m. Eastern on Friday. Tune in there. Most importantly, y'all, until then, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.